Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 10th of April, now it's 15 past 6 in the afternoon Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my second update today, in which I will share with you latest updates on Ukraine and special military operation, and also about some other news that are relevant in Russia and in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. So there are quite a few interesting developments and news that I like to share with you. So let's begin. And the first news is from RIA Novosti news agency, according to which Russian side did receive 106 POWs today. 106 military personnel, Russian military personnel, was freed from Zelensky's regime, and I believe it was some exchange of prisoners of war, and even though not even Ukrainian Telegram channels have information about how many soldiers did receive Kiev, how many Ukrainian soldiers were freed. I guess probably Russia did free similar number of Ukrainian prisoners, or maybe even more, because in Russian captivity there are thousands and thousands of Ukrainian POWs. But yet again, for this moment, not just Russian media, but also Ukrainian media and Ukrainian Telegram channels don't have information about how many POWs, Ukrainian POWs, was free during this exchange. Of course, significant information and great news for families of freed soldiers, and for soldiers themselves. Of course, for them war is over, so it's gonna be great relief, especially for families of those soldiers. Let's continue now, and this is still RIA Novosti's report about statements that head of DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, Denis Pushilin, made during his interview with Russia 24 TV station. He was in Artyomovsk, Bakhmut. As you know, this town has two names. Russian one is Artyomovsk, Ukraine calls it Bakhmut. So Pushilin did visit Bakhmut. We did see today videos of him being in central parts of the city, and in his interview with the Russia 24 TV station, he said that for now, at least, or not just at least, but more than 3/4 of town is under full Russian control. And he did note that during his visit in Bakhmut, he saw entirely destroyed area, and according to him, it's hard to find even single building in town that was not damaged during the intense fight between the sides. And Pushilin blames Bakhmut garrison for this, because according to him, forces that are still loyal to Zelensky's regime were actively using civilian apartments to make some strongholds in buildings and fire positions, and they basically did force PMC Wagner units to deal with this issue using force. There is no other way around, and basically Pushilin, in some sense, is absolutely right. Zelensky's regime basically forced Russian side to use heavy military force to liberate town, and as a result, city is almost entirely destroyed. Of course, it's not like in Marinka. If you see Marinka, for example, I did share many times pictures and videos from Marinka. From Marinka, nothing is left, basically. It's just rubble. In Artyomovsk, in Bakhmut, situation is a little bit better, but still, all the buildings in town will need to be rebuilt and reinforced, and of course it will take some time before this city will return to its previous form. But this will happen when Russian side will establish full control over the town, and Pushilin, of course, did not say anything about it because it's a military matter, and because of high. Let me show you Bakhmut. And because of high concentration, of forces that are loyal to Zelensky in this little part that is left under their control on the west side of town, it will definitely take some time to liberate city. When it comes to Bakhmut, one interesting news, I cannot confirm this information, but some Telegram channels did report, and including Ukrainian Telegram channels, that Syrsky, head of ground forces of Zelensky's regime, and even Zaluzhny, head of general staff, did report to Zelensky that situation in Bakhmut is desperate and that they can hold on to this western part of the city only week. And it seems like even militaries now are basically demanding from Zelensky order to withdraw forces from Bakhmut, and maybe possibly there are some negotiations behind the curtain, and that may explain why Russian forces, why PMC Wagner units did slow down a little bit in previous day or two, their counteroffensive or their offensive in city. Maybe some negotiations are taking place, and if that's the case, then in coming days probably we will see that Zelensky will give order to Bakhmut garrison and they will retreat. And if there was some negotiations, then Russian forces will probably allow them to leave without heavy equipment, of course. Maybe even without weapons, but it's all depends on situation on the ground and what kind of negotiations have been conducted, if any. Because these previous days and the little fact that PMC Wagner units did little bit slow down the offensive may was caused because of course PMC Wagner units had some huge gains in previous weeks, and they do need some reinforcement, and they do need to receive some additional ammunition. That's also a factor, of course. But yet again, if those reports on Ukrainian Telegram channels are correct, and if Syrsky and Zaluzhny are telling to Zelensky that Bakhmut garrison may hold on this little part of the Bakhmut that's still under their control only week, then we truly are seeing final chapter of this battle for this town. Let's see what kind of decision Zelensky will make. If he even little bit cares about soldiers, he should give order to them to retreat. He should give such an order a long time ago, but you know. Let's continue now with the news, and this is still RIA Novosti's report. I have almost all the news from RIA Novosti, even though usually TASS is reporting about the same news. So this is RIA Novosti's report, according to which, and this report is based on information from CNN, US media outlet, according to which US was conducting some espionage towards Zelensky, and I mean, this is kind of funny, because do anyone is surprised that US was trying to watch over Zelensky and know everything about him, what he is doing, where he is, and what his plans are. Zelensky is a puppet of Washington, and of course, US Secret Services did monitor his actions, no doubt about that. But to see this kind of information in big media outlets, it makes you smile. You know, if anyone did expect anything else, you know. Of course, Zelensky is under control of Washington, and they know every step that he makes. Let's continue now, and this is also interesting news about, and this is from Wall Street Journal. And according to this information, for 3rd of May, Zelensky's regime may be left without any air defense systems at all. And this is quite interesting news, of course. According to Wall Street Journal, for 13th of April, Zelensky's regime will have no more missiles for Buk air defense systems, and for 3rd of May, Zelensky's regime will be left without any missiles for S-300 air defense systems. This is quite significant, of course, and we should notice that these missile systems are Soviet era air defense systems, and US or European states, European NATO member states cannot produce missiles for these systems. Those missiles are produced only in Russia. But there are some NATO member states that have this kind of equipment in its inventory. Greece, for example, do have S-300 air defense systems. Turkey has S-400 air defense systems, and possibly missiles from S-400 can be used by S-300 system, possibly. But as I understand, during recent visit of Ukrainian officials in Greece, Ukrainian defense minister was in Greece, if I'm not mistaken. Athens say no to Zelensky's regime. Athens said that they will not supply Leopard 2 tanks, they will not give up S-300 missile systems. They will basically, Athens don't want to send any weapons to Ukraine. They already did send some armored personnel carriers and some ammunition, but for this moment it seems like Greece wants to distance itself from this conflict. And after all, we should always keep in mind that Greece has some difficult relationships with Turkey, and Greece itself needs some weapons. So it's not like they have plenty of weapons and they are just not sending them because that's their principal position. No, Greece itself in need of modern military equipment to defend itself. So interesting information. Probably you did notice, especially if you are subscribed to my Telegram channel, that Russian side in previous weeks have become very active when it comes to frontline aviation, very active, and Russia now is actively using glided bombs, and frontline aviation is in full swing, one should say. And of course, this activity of Russian Air Forces tells you that Zelensky's regime do truly have some difficulties with air defense systems. But I did not expect that the situation for them is such dramatic that for the 13th of April they will be left without Buk missile systems and air defense systems, and for 3rd of May without S-300s. I don't know. Can we believe in this information or not? But that's news that media outlets are reporting, and that's Western media outlets, first of all, Wall Street Journal. So we will see. Let's continue now, and this is also quite interesting. Probably you all are familiar with this information that Trump did write on his social network, sentence Third World War, and everyone was giving attention to this post, and everyone is guessing what he meant by Third World War. And me too, personally. I did share on my Telegram channel his tweet, and I did also start thinking about what he was meaning. Maybe he has some inside information, and maybe current administration of USA, maybe Biden administration, is planning to heavily intensify its involvement in conflict in Ukraine. And if that's the case, then who knows? We may truly end up in global conflict. I hope this will not happen, but I don't think Trump did write this for no reason. He is a former president of US, and as I understand, he has his sources, and he has reach to classified information. So very interesting and same time troubling news, because if Trump thinks that we may end up in World War III, we should take it seriously, because yet again we are talking about former US president who has plenty of supporters in US, and I believe in US Secret Services also, and in Pentagon. And he definitely has much more information than all of us altogether. So this is very interesting. Maybe he will explain what he meant in his interview. He will probably talk to journalists today, tomorrow, or in coming days, and he will explain what he meant. But I mean, world is listening and watching, and that's once again gives you showcase importance of individuals in current age, even when it comes to global politics. And Trump definitely is one of those persons, like it or not, but that's how it is, man. So let's continue now, and this is RIA Novosti's report about meeting that Lukashenko, president of Belarus, had with Russian Defense Minister Shoigu. And during this meeting, they did discuss many topics, but Lukashenko did ask Russian side, Russian Defense Minister, not just ask, but he basically did demand that Russia should defend Belarus if any intervention from outside, as like Russia is defending its own self. And as you know, Russia and Belarus had a union state together, and between countries there are some agreements that if attack on Belarus will mean attack on Russia. So I don't know why Lukashenko needed additional reassurance that Russia will defend Belarus in any case, but that's what he asked Russian side, and I'm quite sure Russia will defend Belarus if any neighboring country, or if any country whatsoever, will try to attack. That's why basically just recently Putin did make decision to deploy in Belarus tactical nuclear weapons. That was a exclusively defensive measure, just to make sure that NATO member states that are bordering Belarus will be in check and will not do any crazy moves towards Belarus or towards Kaliningrad region of Russian Federation. Let's continue now, and this is also interesting news. RBK news agency is reporting that delegation from Saudi Arabia, including ambassador, did visit Yemen to conduct negotiations with the Houthis. As you know, it's civil war is for so many years. Civil war have been continued in Yemen, and that's because Saudi Arabia and some other Gulf states were actively involved in this conflict. And Houthis, that's a minority that controls northern eastern part of Yemen, including border with Saudi Arabia. They did fight courageously against Saudi forces, against all the forces that were entering Yemen. They did have support from Iran, and because now, thanks to China, Iran and Saudi Arabia are re-establishing relationships, and in coming days they will probably open embassies. Because of this development, I believe peace negotiations in Yemen was a part of this big truth between the sides, and it's a great news. It's great news if Saudi Arabia now is sending its representatives to Yemen to conduct some negotiations and finish this horrible war that destroy Yemen and take lives of hundreds of thousands of people. It's just you know how terrible situation is in Yemen, and mainly because of involvement of Saudi Arabia and US, by the way, also. US also, because US were actively supplying Saudi Arabia not just with intelligence but also with military equipment, and some European states also, NATO member states also, did play their part in this disaster that happening in Yemen. But thanks to China yet again, like it or hate it, but it's China did made possible this big shift towards peace in Middle East, and especially between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And as a result, now we are seeing that peace may come to Yemen also, which is great, absolutely great. Let's continue now, and few news about some economical development. And we have RT's report here that Russia remains India's top oil supplier. And we have some numbers here. In March, in previous months, India was buying approximately 1.64 million barrels of crude oil per day, which is a huge increase compared to numbers that India were purchasing in Russia in year before. And right now Russia is number one. Iraq is second place when it comes to oil supply to India. Iraq did supplies 821,000 barrels per day. And Saudi Arabia, to my surprise, Saudi Arabia is on is third with 986,000 barrels. What? Iraq reportedly sold 821,000 barrels per day, make it India's third biggest supplier after Saudi Arabia, of course. So, guys, that's why I was surprised. I'm thinking, how Iraq become a bigger supplier of oil than Saudi Arabia. No. Iraq is the third, and Saudi Arabia is second when it comes to supplies of oil to India. And as you know, Russia and Saudi Arabia are number one and number two when it comes to oil supplies to China. So yes, sorry about this confusion, because when I was reading, I did not read the entire sentence. I just watch numbers, and because it's Iraq here, I was thinking, Iraq is number two and Saudi is number three, and I was surprised. How? No, Saudi Arabia is second and Iraq is third. And let's continue now. And when it comes to, yet again, India and China, we have information from International Monetary Fund, and according to IMF, India and China will drive half of the world's economic growth in this year, and some 90% of advanced economies, that's, you can say, G7 economies first of all, are expected to see GDP decline this year, which is basically not surprising, let's be honest. If this conflict between Western elites and Russia continues and intensifies, then in coming years, Western economies probably will suffer much more than in 2023. Much more than in 2023, but yet again. Let's see. So quite interesting numbers. IMF chief forecast the world economy to grow at less than 3% in 2023, in line with the fund's January's estimate of 2.9%. So world economy is still growing, but yet again, India and China will drive this growth, and half of these numbers are thanks to these two giants, basically. Let's continue, and this is also interesting news. You will probably be surprised, like I was. Kommersant newspaper is reporting that Aeroflot, main Russian avia company, did send its first plane in Iran for maintenance. And Aeroflot sent Airbus A330-300, and Iranian specialists will do maintenance on chassis of the plane. And in this information we have we are learning that Iranian company Mahain Air do have all the licenses to conduct such work on the planes, and after this first plane, if Russian side is happy with the results, I believe many other Russian avia companies will send its planes to Iran for maintenance, because as you know, sanctions did hit Russian avia companies also, and they cannot do maintenance in many other countries now. But Iran is still open, and this company, Iranian company Mahan Air, do have all the licenses to conduct such operations. So it's good. It's good for Russian side, and it's good for Iran also. And as you probably notice, Russia and Iran are increasing its partnership, increasing its trade partnership, economical partnership, and political one, and it's all good, really. And this trade route, north-south, which goes through Iran, will probably truly start working in coming years, and both sides will benefit from it greatly. So yes, this is it for now. I hope you will find this video interesting, and if so, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. And if you think this channel deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, and please consider to support with small donations through PayPal or by subscribing to my Patreon channel. You will see links under this video in the description box. And by the way, we did reach 8,000 mark. Thank you all. I'm very grateful for your time, attention, and support, guys. I mean, I find it hard to explain how grateful I am. So thank you very much for your attention, to all of you. Have a nice day, and take care. See you soon.